Welcome to the QuesterMage, and welcome back to another No Man's Sky video for the Nintendo Switch. It's been roughly a week since update 5.20, the Cursed Expedition has been available for Nintendo Switch. So I took my time and played through the update to just have an overall chat about it at the end. So I played the update for about a week, and today I just want to talk about my overall thoughts on this update for the Switch. But before we get into my overall thoughts, I do want to remind everyone that this expedition apparently only runs for 2 weeks. So if you haven't updated No Man's Sky on Switch and played the expedition, I suggest you do that as quick as you can to have all the rewards that become available with this expedition. Starting the expedition is pretty much the same as starting a new game or any other expedition before it. You synchronize into the game and you appear on a planet, sometimes having equipment broken and other times not. In the Cursed Expedition, I'm glad to say that all your stuff actually works, which is pretty good. The big thing that I took away from this is normal travel via warping was disabled this time, and the only way to travel that the developers wanted you to do was to actually use the portals. Now, without knowing, I actually got around this because I didn't realize that this was a limitation that they had in mind for this expedition. You see, every time I play expeditions, I usually warp to the second system in the expedition where I can have access to the Nexus. Once I have access to the Nexus, I usually claim one of my previous ships that I've had from another expedition, and that's what I've done this time. So I was free to actually warp around as I wanted, but looking at the No Man's Sky website, I don't think that's what they wanted me to do. So that's something to have in mind if you are in a little bit of a rush. That's a slight way around not having the right things in the right solar systems. So like I said, you synchronize into the world, and one of the first things that came across to me that I really liked was the text that's displayed on screen. So you have a horizontal bar that appears on screen right in the middle. It's obviously the player being communicated by something else. Very ominous, very mysterious, and I really enjoyed this element, and it kept me engaged with the overall expedition, wanting me and propelling me to play more. The way that the text is worded really does come across as Star Trek Deep Space Nine founders speaking to the player, which also I very much like as a Star Trek fan. If you're not a Star Trek fan, basically the characters within that show and here in this expedition speak to you in very generic ways, but those words seem to be hinting towards a deeper meaning, which kept me interested in the show and also this expedition in finding out what is going on. The next thing that was very obvious to notice was the day and night cycle kept on shifting. Very different for No Man's Sky, and I actually really like it. One of the things I like about this game is going to different places and seeing different things, and hopefully unique things on planets or solar systems. This was a very unique mechanic to be using with this update. Never seen it before, and I hope this is patched into the main game later. The day and night cycles just come and go as they please, which I think is a great visual trick to keep the player on their toes. Obviously, you will also see these new enemies. They look like translucent squid type enemies, which is a really cool design. Also new, I like that. Not everything has to be new, but I do like it when we have new stuff and it looks interesting. So the design is really good, and I like how they look like squids that are just flying in mid-air. What I especially did like is the way they appeared, and this was not apparent from the beginning that's what was happening. So you see this purple sort of flame or haze that appears in the floor, and then you will see these enemies spawning from there. At the beginning, it doesn't seem like they are hostile. They are, which was slightly weird, but also I ended up liking because this kept me on my toes and kept me interested in what was going on. Sometimes I'd be in a firefight with some enemies, and then these enemies would take exception to that and then say, hey, I'm gonna join in this fight. So at points, I found myself fighting 3 different types of enemies. Sentinels, then these new enemies, and also some of the wild fauna. Thought it would be fun to join in, which was not fun. I did end up winning, so it was okay in the end. But what I very much like and took away from that experience within the game is how fun this combat can actually be when it becomes hectic. Now, this is something I've mentioned before on the channel, and is also something I would like to see Hello Games lean into more. I did also notice that the new enemies attack your spaceship when you're sitting in it, which I thought was interesting. You are not safe in your ship if these enemies do not like you at that point in time. If you have a pet in the game, they also attack you on the pet, and I don't think that's happened any time before. Don't know if Hello Games wanted that to happen or not, but it was fun to see when it did, and very surprising. Now, the glass storyline itself, I find excellent. If I could take one thing from this whole update, it would be how the story was delivered via those ominous text messages on screen, and how this was actually interesting. So I've said before how some of the story in the expeditions doesn't hold my interest because it's been so long since the last chapter of that story was delivered. However, in this expedition, like I just said, I found it really interesting, and I think this this storyline, this whole Realm of Glass storyline should be part of the main story, but the way we start in this expedition, if we started the main game like that, fantastic. I'd absolutely love it. So after the beginning segment of this expedition, you're going to find that overall, this update is based on two things, reading and crafting. I've already mentioned how I like the story in this one, so the reading is good. The crafting was different. Now, to be clear, we are crafting items in the game the same way, but what that item is doing with the world is different. Which reminds me of, I think it was the Interceptor update, or whichever update, let me know down in the comments which one it was, in which we got the Atlas multi-tools and we started interacting with ruins in a different way. I really like that update, and this one reminds me more of that. And the reason why is we have to craft certain items, and those items change the surroundings or the gameplay, which again I very much enjoyed. So by defeating the new enemies, you get a new item. That item accompanied with another common item will allow you to make the basic vial that you need of these vials in this expedition. Now, what I do like about these vials is they change our interactions with portals, and then we get more story given to the player. And I think, again, this story is mysterious and interesting. You basically do this, rinse and repeat for every phase. So unfortunately, we do still have the repetitive nature of the expeditions, but they're free, so we can't really moan too much about it, but it doesn't stop me from wanting something a little bit better. There are also things I didn't like that much in this update. One of them is finding X amount of storm crystals. Now, I don't really like it when I see this in expeditions, because to do that, you have to find a stormy planet, and to find a stormy planet with the storm crystals, and then you have to wait for a storm. Once you've done that, you can get the storm crystals, then you go. Now, if you don't naturally find a stormy planet that has storm crystals on it, this can be a little bit lengthy, and I don't really like that because there's no way to actually find these planets except for basically RNG. So when you warp into a solar system, you have to hope that one of these planets is there with all the prerequisites. If it's not, you're just going to have to jump from one to another to another to another to another. Now, I understand that in this expedition, we weren't supposed to do that because apparently we're supposed to be limited to the solar systems that we were being sent to via the portals, but I did find I had to fly around to find these planets. Next was the find X amount of exotic creatures. Same reason as the storm crystals. Don't like that because again, we have to find specific planets with a specific number of creatures. I did naturally find one of those special planets in my playthrough of this expedition, but it only had one exotic creature, so I had to again jump around from solar system to solar system to try and find another one. I did, just took me way too long and took me away from the story, which is the thing I was finding most satisfying in this expedition. Now, the portal jumping, I liked the interaction with the portal. I liked the way that the story was delivered, but jumping from portal to portal didn't really change much in a gameplay perspective, so you just ended up on another world. I did like that we were resynchronizing every single time that we were going to a new phase. That was different. It made me think something more mysterious was happening overall, which is good. But essentially, once you've completed one phase and one portal, it's just going to be the same with all the other ones, just with different text. Now, lastly is the final encounter. I'm not going to spoil that. Again, I've been trying to stay away from spoilers in this whole impressions video, I guess. The final encounter was surprising, but the story didn't seem to wrap up, which is unfortunate. And it seemed to just end as soon as the last encounter happens, which obviously means that we will be getting more, and you can see that in the notes on the No Man's Sky website that Hello Games are planning to do more and add more to No Man's Sky. Thank you very much. We do want all of that content. I love this game and I want it to keep on going. But like I was saying, I guess there will be another update to continue the Realm of Glass storyline, which is good. This does keep me interested, but again, I'm afraid that the same thing is going to happen, like I mentioned earlier in the video, where a certain amount of time passes and you just tend to forget what story was delivered to you before. And we can't exactly run these expeditions whenever we want. We can run the old one until another one comes out. Now again, this expedition is only out for 2 weeks and we are still waiting for Worlds Part 2, so hopefully in a week or so we will get the Worlds Part 2, but I don't know that. I'm just saying hopefully, because usually they give a time frame and they're planning for something after, so hopefully that is what happens. But going back to this whole Glass storyline, I still think, and again this is my opinion and I'd like to know yours, that this is the best storyline in No Man's Sky. I would love for this storyline to be added into the game. The main story can still stay in the game, but once we finish that and we get the ability to make a staff in the game, why not have this Realm of Glass story start from there, and it will just expand the storyline and make the single player experience that much longer, because again, I think this is very interesting and it it would be a good reward for getting to the middle of the galaxy. And it's at this point that I want to know what you all think of version 5.20, the Cursed Expedition that is now available for No Man's Sky on Switch. Did you like it? Didn't you like it? How would you change it? Let me know down in the comment section and let's have a discussion about it. So that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you very much again for watching. If you like what I do here, please click that like button down below. Helps out the channel a lot. And if you want to see more, please click that subscribe button, as that is the only way this channel can grow. Now, I hope you liked this video and I hope to see you in the next one. And until then, thanks again.